Welcome to another episode of The Dissection. Now, this story is a very big story that could reshape the political dynamics of South Africa for 2026, for 2029, and for the coming years. The former chairperson of VBS Mutual Bank, Tshifhiwa Matodzi, has been handed a 495-year sentence for theft, fraud, money laundering, and racketeering that culminated in the collapse of the bank. Matodzi, who's 47, was sentenced in the Pretoria High Court on Wednesday after he pleaded guilty to 33 charges. He was jailed for 15 years on each count, but the sentences will run concurrently. As part of the plea and sentence agreement, Matodzi admitted to being personally involved in the theft of billions of rands from 2017 to 2018 by creating fictitious credit in VBS accounts that was then transferred to other accounts. Now, what's the politically disruptive story angle to this? Is that he actually has an affidavit which he published as part of a plea deal. And in this affidavit, he specifically mentions Floyd Shivambu, he specifically mentions Julius Malema, and he specifically mentions the EFF. Let me go to his affidavit and then you'll hear what he has to say. I, the undersigned, Tshifhiwa Matodzi, do hereby make an oath and state as follows. I am an unemployed adult male of 46 years with a South African identity number. I am the former chairperson of the VBS Mutual Bank and executive chairperson of Vele Investments. The facts herein deposed to by me are true and correct and are within my own personal knowledge and belief, save where otherwise stated or the contrary appears from the context. I hereby declare that I make this statement voluntarily and out of my own free will. I have not been coerced, threatened, and or promised anything in exchange for making this statement. I understand the nature of the charges against me, including corruption, fraud, theft, money laundering, and contravention of the pattern of racketeering activities. I take full responsibility for my actions. I am cooperating with the police and prosecution in hope to rectify my wrongdoing and seek appropriate consequences for my actions. So that's how the affidavit starts. This is where it gets to mentioning the EFF and Julius Malema, right? And this is on page 57 of the affidavit. Payments to Scamega. To my knowledge, Scamega is a company owned by Brian Shivambu, a brother to Floyd Shivambu, who is the deputy president of the EFF. The company was provided to me by Floyd to make payments that I promised to the EFF. I made this promise following the news, which had been broken in the media, that VBS had granted former President Zuma a home loan for his Nkandla residence. Negative publicity arose in the country, particularly from those that were opposed to Zuma at the time. Amongst those was the EFF. EFF had started a campaign of mentioning VBS in its political rallies through its president, Julius Malema. As chairman of VBS, I then decided that Malema and EFF should be approached for VBS to explain its position and how the loan was granted. Gogoro, which was VBS PR consultants, arranged a meeting for me to meet with Julius at the EFF's penthouse in Sandton around April-May 2017. I went there alone. Present there was Julius Malema, Floyd Shivambu, and Marshall Dlamini. Marshall Dlamini did not participate in the meeting, and he was seated very far from where the engagement took place. I explained VBS' position and the fact that the EFF's negative commentary about the VBS Zuma transaction was damaging VBS's reputation. Furthermore, I explained that as Black brothers, the EFF's constituencies were VBS target market also. I further informed them that the VBS was willing to offer a donation to the EFF. I proposed that the VBS can donate 5 million rands immediately once a bank account has been opened at VBS and 1 million per month to the EFF. I also made it clear that the amount could only be deposited into a VBS account, and that the EFF should therefore open a bank account with VBS. After I left this meeting, Floyd and I remained in contact. At some stage, Floyd indicated that they had opened an account at VBS in the name of the company called Scamega. A transfer of 5 million rands as promised was made on my instructions from Malibongwe to Scamega on the 8th of June 2017. Subsequent payments were made to Scamega VBS account every month and were paid from Vele or any of Vele's subsidiaries. Myself, Julius, and Floyd understood that concept of donation to mean gratification. Hence, Floyd and Julius did not provide me with EFF's own banking details for these donations. Further subsequent meetings were held between Julius, Floyd, and myself. The notable one was where Julius and Floyd informed me that they needed funding to renovate an EFF restaurant called Grand Azania in Soweto. I informed them of a VBS facility for such loans and referred them to David Ntlokwe, the then general manager of credit at VBS, to attend to this request. This loan application was made through Scamega and was approved, although I do not know the amount. After VBS was placed under curatorship, I met Floyd and his younger brother Brian several times at Floyd's residence in Bryanston. This was the first time I met Brian. At one of the meetings, myself, Floyd, and Brian agreed to regularize the 5 million plus 1 million monthly donations. It was agreed amongst us that we draft a contract between Vele and Scamega for consulting work in petroleum and storage facilities. The said contract, which we backdated by agreement, was drafted by the Shivambu brothers. The signatories to that contract were myself, representing Vele, and Brian, who was representing Scamega. And then there's an annexure of that particular contract that was entered into. Now, these are very serious allegations, and obviously they will have to be tested in a court of law. But it's important to mention what crime or crimes could have been committed as a result of the information that is in this affidavit. And an affidavit by a convicted person who's implicated in this is real evidence, or is some form of stronger evidence than news articles, which obviously you have to question what is the source and where you're getting this information from. Right. So the act that could have been violated here is the Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act of 2004. And Section 3 describes the general offense of corruption, right? And it says the following: any person who directly or indirectly, A, accepts or agrees or offers to accept any gratification from any other person, whether for the benefit of himself or herself or for the benefit of another person, is guilty of the crime or the offense of corruption. That's what the Act says. Now, what is gratification? There's a definition that is given in the Act of what gratification entails. And if you recall from the affidavit, what the Vele chairperson said was that he said, myself, Julius, and Floyd understood the concept of donation to mean gratification. Hence, Floyd and Julius did not provide me with the EFF's own banking details for these donations. Now, that is going to be something that, if this goes to a trial, will be something that is critical, an understanding of what this money was for, and whether or not the other people dispute this version. Right. Gratification includes, according to the Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act, it includes money, whether in cash or otherwise, any donation, gift, loan, fee, reward, valuable security, property or interest in property of any description, whether movable or immovable, or any other similar advantage. Right? And this is the relevant, I think, definition that we need to take consideration of. And then it also includes here any payment, release, discharge, or liquidation of any loan, obligation, or other liability, whether in whole or in part. Okay? So that's what gratification, as it pertains to this, affidavit and the allegations therein pertains to. Now, the last thing that needs to be just considered is what are the penalties, right? Any person who is convicted of an offense referred to in Part 1, 2, 3, or 4, or Section 18 of Chapter 2 is liable in the case of a sentence to be imposed by a high court to a fine or to imprisonment up to a period, in the case of a sentence to be imposed by a high court to a fine or to imprisonment up to a period for imprisonment for life. In the case of a sentence to be imposed by a regional court to a fine or to imprisonment for a period not exceeding 18 years. Or in the case of a sentence to be imposed by a magistrate court to a fine or to imprisonment for a period not exceeding 5 years. Just trying to check if I've missed anything. Right. So I think you can see that this is very serious stuff, right? This is very serious stuff. And if the EFF leaders are then convicted of this, this really could reshape the South African political terrain in a significant way. As it stands, this will, I definitely think, tarnish the reputation of the EFF. This will lead to further narratives that, the EFF has been chowing money and taking money from people, and that's how they've been fundraising. And this definitely could lead to a change in the political dynamics within South Africa in a significant way. The question now is, will the National Prosecuting Authority charge Julius Malema, Floyd Shivambu, Brian Shivambu, and others who have been mentioned here for, taking a bribe, for, the offense of, accepting gratification? Will they be charged with that? And if so, will they be charged before a decision is made on whether or not there will be a charge for President Ramaphosa in the Phala matter? Remember, that matter is still one where there's still some kind of an ongoing investigation. This will bring a lot of politics into this situation, and it will lead to a lot of conversations around consistency of application of law. But as things stand right now, this is a serious matter, and it's a matter that will definitely shake the roots of the political system as things stand right now. Reason being, for a very long time, this has just been reporting. It has just been the discourse of some publications which have been very negative towards the EFF and have done very, very weird things like going into trash, etc. But when you have somebody who has gone through a criminal trial, been convicted, confessed, and actually then issues an affidavit, then now you're talking a different ballgame. The level of gravitas now is serious. Obviously, it does look as if the media, certain publications, were given this information because it's almost word for word the information that was in some of the publications. There's a funny thing about investigative journalism in South Africa is that the journalists are just given files and then they just type the files out or they copy paste, and then they are called investigative journalists when they are literally playing the game for particular entities. But that's a story for another day. What do you think? What do you think about this? Do you think this is the end of the road for the EFF? Do you think this goes to trial this year, next year? Sometimes it takes a very long time before these issues go to courts of law. Do you think the political dynamics will shift in ways that make this case go away? Let's have a conversation. If you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing. It helps YouTube know that you appreciate the content, and it helps others find this particular channel as well. Till the next one.